It is Thursday, February 12th, and you are watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The Olympics are underway. Canada won their first game 5-0. Slovakia upset Finland. How about that? We're going to talk a little Olympics, but we're going to take a different approach to it. Tune in to find out how. We're also going to take a look at the AHL, but again, specifically on the rookies. It was the AHL All-Star Weekend, so I think it's only fitting we talk about the best rookies in the AHL this season. Snake's got a hot take cooked up for us. We have a mailbag question in the queue. This show is going to be good. Tune in. It starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
That's right. Producer Shayne here, joined as always by my counterpart, the sexy Simon the Snake Boisvert, with the fresh haircut. How about that? Snake, how we doing today?
Doing fantastic. Now, what are they going to say about my hair?
You need a comb. You need a comb. Well,
yeah.
Hey, look, he got a haircut. Leave the guy be, okay?
For a couple of weeks.
Oh, boy, yeah. Some of the comments are pretty funny, but it's always in good fun. And a lot of the comments, Snake, are so insightful, and we have another great question lined up. Please keep sending in your topic suggestions, your questions, all of the above. We want to hear from you, okay? The viewers, the listeners, you know so much, and we learn from you as well. So we encourage you to chime in the chat. But Snake, look, we can't do a show without talking about the Olympics. It's underway. People have been waiting for so long now to see NHL caliber players back in the Olympics, and it has not disappointed so far. However, what I want to talk with you about is the young players in the Olympics, okay? Because, you think Olympics, you think NHL Olympics, you think, wow, okay, they're going to bring veterans, they're going to be, guys with experience, guys who've been there before, and for the most part, that is the case. However, there are a few young guys in the Olympics this year, and they're having quite the impact on their team. Take Slovakia, for example. 21-year-old Juraj Slafkovský had 2 goals and an assist in their first game. Dalibor Dvorsky, 20 years old, had a big goal for that team. And look who kicked off Canada's goal scoring today. None other than 19-year-old Macklin Celebrini. So, Snake, let me ask you, from the perspective of the teams, right? When choosing the roster, what is the appeal in taking a young, talented player in a tournament where it's basically do or die?
Well, I think, first of all, it's very rare that they're going to take that young of a player. They did it with Sidney Crosby. Yeah. And they're doing it with Celebrini. So it's not going to happen every Olympics that you have a guy like Celebrini who's so young and so good. So I think Celebrini was taken without considering his age. He's just great already. It just so happens that he's 19 years old. Now, the impact of it, I think it's good. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at most Stanley Cup winning teams of the past, very often they had, let's call it a kid or a kid line. And because you do win with mature teams. What I mean by mature teams is that guys who are going to be like in their prime, who have a lot of NHL experience. And you look at the Florida Panthers, they were an experienced team. But every now and then you find contributors amongst the young players, and I think Celebrini could be one of them. I don't know. It just probably changes the dynamic of the whole team when you have a guy who's so much younger than the average age. I don't know what the average of the Canadian team, but it must be mid to late 20s, I would think.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid's 29. Nathan McKinnon is already 30. That's quite incredible when you think about it. It was yesterday that he was an 18-year-old rookie in Colorado.
That's true.
So I do think I think it's good. I think it's good. You need players of all ages on a team. And, Crosby's, double the age of Celebrini. And they're still very good. Because sometimes if you have a veteran or youngsters that are not that great, well, what's the point? But now they just so happen to be an old guy and a very young guy who are pillars on that team.
Yeah.
So I think it's a nice coincidence. Will we see it at the next Olympics? I doubt it, unless Sid plays when he's at that level when he's 42. Unless Maddox Schultz.
Put it past them.
Unless Maddox Schultz becoms an ex-Celebrini. Just mentioning Schultz because he got a hat trick this week.
Yeah.
For the Regina Pats. And he's 15 years old right now. He's one of the rare 15-year-old players in junior hockey right now, and he's playing very well.
That's it. No, it's an interesting philosophy, right, for different teams, because on one hand, right, these are not best of sevens, right? These are one game, soon to be elimination games, and you have to win, you have to score right away. There's no mental games, there's no wearing down the opponent. It's go, go, go all time for 60 minutes, right? So that's where the dichotomy comes in, because on one hand, you want those veterans who have been there, who know what to do in these types of tournaments. But on the other hand, you also want the youthful exuberance of these young guys who bring in the energy, who bring in the talent, right? I think, personal opinion here, I think you win these tournaments by scoring goals. Defensively, sure, you might win games by shutting down the opposition, but ultimately it's the team who scores the most goals that's going to win gold. So again, I'm all for these young players being here and clearly having a significant impact so far. Now, looking at these young players, I mean, talk about how they can benefit from this on an exponential level. Like, take Celebrini, for example. He gets to spend 2 weeks straight playing on McDavid's wing, right, at 19 years old. Like that, no matter what, is gonna it's good for development, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, I think it is. And by the way, I think it's easier for a 19-year-old Celebrini to mesh with these guys and have an impact than, let's say, a 16-year-old Celebrini on the junior team.
Yeah. Because
I think the gap is wider between a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old player. You mentioned, like, for a short period of time, for a 10-day tournament, than it is for a 19-year-old Celebrini who's already a dominant player in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, there's no more gap. I mean, there's no gap between a 25 and a 28-year-old player. Now, about development, look, I don't know how much it will make Celebrini better than he would be had he not gone to the Olympics, but it sure doesn't hurt, because Celebrini has been playing for a weak team in the last year and a half, although this year he's carrying them on the verge of the playoffs. I don't think they will make it, but just the fact that they're still in the conversation at the Olympic break is absolutely amazing. Many people thought he was going to be in the Gavin McKenna. They were going to be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstake. But look, it doesn't hurt. And he's going back to San Jose. He has good line mates. He plays with Will Smith, who's obviously not of that caliber yet. But maybe one day Smith will play for the U.S. team. Yeah. So look, it never hurts to play with the best and against the best. Well, against the best. I mean, playing France or Italy, I wouldn't say is playing against the best, but at some point, as the medal round happens, it'll be the case.
That's it. No, I got to give Italy some credit here, because they hang in there with Sweden yesterday, even though Sweden put up 60 shots on them. Yeah. It was a tight game. And so that's what's fun about these tournaments, is that, one team can get hot at any point and just steamroll, right? It's unlikely heroes like Samuel Halavai, the goaltender for Team Slovakia, who plays for the Iowa Wild, who does not have a good season so far, is just all of a sudden prime Carey Price. Like that's the beauty of the Olympics. It's so much fun. The pride of your representing your country kind of comes out, and you elevate your game. That's what makes these tournaments so much fun to watch. The camaraderie, the beautiful chemistry. It's incredible. Snake, I mean, we're recording this show prior to the US-Latvia game, and we're not really going to be keying in on Team USA that much because the youngest players, I think, is like Brock Faber and Jake Sanderson. They're kind of past, the young side, right?
Yeah.
However, on Team Latvia, there is an undrafted player, Albert Smits, who we're going to be keeping an eye on. We're not going to be talking about him today, of course, but tune in next week for our thoughts on him. We're going to be watching that game. We're going to be keeping a close eye on him. Before we move along now to the AHL, Snake, is there anything else regarding the Olympics you would like to tackle, or are we saving that for the hot take?
Well, we're saving that for the hot take, but regarding Smits, I think it's a good test today because he's going to be playing against NHL stars. Yeah. And Smits is eligible for the draft. He's supposedly a top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. I don't think his stock can go down, but I think it can go up with a great Olympic tournament. The only question I'm wondering right now, since he's the youngest player at the Olympics, I think, how many minutes will he play?
Yeah.
So look, I'll be watching his shifts over the next couple of days. And Monday, it'll be something we can talk about, how we fared against the Americans. Hopefully, they can give him 12, 13 minutes. That would be good. Mm-hmm. And just out of curiosity, I mean, like I say, it's not going to hurt his stock if he's just average, because he might play it very safe. But it's fun. A draft-eligible player at the Olympics is always fun, just like Slavkovsky was 4 years ago.
We saw what happened there.
But the competition was lesser than what Smits is going to be facing this year.
Yeah,
but it's always fun to see these draft-eligible players playing against seasoned pros.
No doubt about it. No, it's going to be fun to watch. And look, we're going to keep talking about the Olympics as the tournament goes along. We're not going to cover it in depth. For that, I recommend you tune in to the Eye Test with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy, and as well on the Tony Marinaro Show. And may I add, now we can finally talk about it. The Sid Sixero Show, brought to you by Sick Media, has launched, and what a success it's been. If you haven't watched it yet, do yourself a favor. Even if you don't like Toronto sports, trust me, you'll like Sid and Jeff. Those guys do an amazing job there, and they're going to talk Olympics as well, so you can get your Olympic fix over there. Now, Snake, we're going to tackle a little bit AHL here. And, it was the AHL All-Star Weekend in Rockford just a few days ago. And, All-Star Week, more like, not a weekend. Yeah. But anyways, 3 Laval Rocket players were there. Only 2 played. However, Jacob Fowler was injured. Pascal Vincent was behind the bench. Mm-hmm. But we're going to tackle the rookies now, okay? Yeah. The players in their first year of pro hockey. Which ones are doing the best, Snake?
Well, the thing is, there are guys who are called up by the NHL, but I'm going to go through the younger players in the American Hockey League right now. Some of them, like Jacob Fowler, played a few games last year, but they're still eligible as rookies. So I went basically on their website. I checked the rookie status, and I'm going to go mostly with the positive. Couple of disappointments, I would say, because for those who are not familiar with the show or my comments, I find that in the American Hockey League, you have to be very patient with goaltenders. So you can't really freak out if a 20, 21-year-old goaltender doesn't do well. I think you have to give them at least, the time, their rookie level contract. And there's a reason why goalies have an extra year before they become waivers eligible.
That's it.
That's the reason. Defensemen, I like to see how they fare throughout their rookie contract. So I give them a couple of years. You have to see improvement. Mm-hmm. So I'm not asking for too much from a 20-year-old defenseman, but by the time his rookie contract ends, you're expecting him to be in the NHL. Forwards, that's another story. Forwards, I think star forwards either don't go to the American Hockey League, or if they do, it's for a very, very short period of time. Guys sometimes get sent back, for 10 games, 5 games. We saw it with Cole Caulfield a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then they tear it up, and then they're being called back, and that's it. And look at the Habs players, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Demidov didn't go through the American Hockey League. But what I like about the American Hockey League right now is that more and more teams are sending 18 and 19-year-old players to the AHL. Now, one might ask, they're not supposed to, because usually they have to send it back to junior hockey. Yes, that is correct. It'll change next year, where teams will be allowed to send one junior age player, age 19, to the American Hockey League. But this year, the reason why some guys have been playing in the American Hockey League is because they were not drafted out of junior hockey in Canada. So if you're an American playing in the States, if you're a European playing in Europe, you are allowed to play in the American Hockey League at age 18. Some of them did. Ivan Ryabkin, for instance, who was drafted by Carolina, he played 25 games, only had 7 points. They sent him back to junior hockey, which I think was the right decision. But which takes me to one of them, who's very, very interesting. The brother of Alexei Protas. Ilya Protas. He's playing for Hershey, the Caps farm team. 37 points in 44 games. The man is 6'6" and probably over 230 pounds. Just what I can see on the ice, I think he's over 230 pounds. I think this is a guy who really, really benefited from being sent to the American Hockey League. So far, he's probably my favorite rookie. I know Quinn Hudson has more points, but Quinn Hudson just turned 24. Quinn, by the way, is Cole and Lane's brother. He plays for Bakersfield, which is the Edmonton Oilers affiliate. He had a cup of coffee in the NHL. I don't think he's really an impact prospect. If you want, that's my opinion. Yeah. Protas right now, to me, wins the gold medal as the top young prospect in the American Hockey League based on his rookie season. Now, there are other players worth mentioning. 20-year-old guys like Andrew Crystal. Yeah. Also for Hershey.
Again, same team.
Same team, 35 points, 44 games. The knock with Crystal was the fact that he's kind of on the small side, and he's not a great skater. And that's why he was drafted further away in the draft, although he was a big point producer in junior hockey. Yeah. So we shall see in his case. But for now, everything's good. When you get 35 points, 44 games in the American Hockey League at age 20, I think he's on the right track. We'll see. Another guy who was a first-round pick, who's having a great debut in the American Hockey League, although it wasn't that great in the NHL, Isaac Howard. Yeah. Isaac Howard was Tampa Bay's first-round pick, 31st overall, 3 years ago, and was traded to Edmonton because I think he was going to become a free agent if he went back to college, and he wasn't going to sign with Tampa. They traded him to Edmonton, 30 points in 22 games. I think he's 21 years old. I think he's too strong for the American Hockey League. As for the NHL, I think he will be an NHLer, but I have doubts about his offensive ceiling in the NHL. A few more guys I want to mention. Nick Lardis in Chicago, third-round pick. 15 goals in 28 games. He was called up for 21 games by the Hawks. He scored 5 goals. He was one of my sleepers from the 2023 draft, third-round pick. I like him a lot. I think at some point he's going to be a fixture on the Hawks team, but for now he's back in the American Hockey League. Yeah. Other guys, Igor Chernyshov in San Jose was called up by the Sharks, was very good. I think they sent it back because of the Olympic break, because right now there are guys who are sent back because they want them to play and not just stay home during the Olympic break. Younger players, Mate Gridin, who had a few good games in Calgary, has been doing very well at age 19 in the American Hockey League. He was playing for Shawinigan last year.
Yep.
But they were allowed to send him because he was not drafted out of the Quebec League. Another 19-year-old, Michael Branstad Nygaard, first-round pick of the Red Wings. Also, 25 points in 40 games. I think he's doing well in the American Hockey League. I think it won't be long before he makes it to the NHL. Again, I don't know what role he will have in the NHL. Maybe not a great offensive player, but most certainly a good player. One of my favorite guys, Quentin Musty, 24 points, 32 games in San Jose. As a rookie, he's been playing with Chernyshov. I think he played well, although I'm a little bit disappointed in his point total. Mm-hmm. So I thought he was going to be called up at some point by the Sharks, but I don't think he's ready yet. Hopefully next year. So we'll see. And one big disappointment, Braden Yeager.
Yes.
Braden Yeager.
Good point.
Who was drafted out of the first round and then was traded for Rutger McGroarty by Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
to Winnipeg. And I think they must have known something we didn't, because only 6 points in 42 games. I watched him play a few games. He's not bad, but I think it's very underwhelming for a 20-year-old first-round pick forward to have such a low production. Daniel Butt for Utah. I always say Arizona. For Utah, 17 points in 20 games. He was called up by Utah. Not a big point producer in the NHL, but I think he's a big body. So I think it'll take a little bit longer, but he's a good goal scorer. I think he will be a contributor in Utah. Gabriel Perreault started with the Rangers, went back to the American Hockey League, called up again. Might not be ready for full-time work in the NHL, but he's been very good in the American Hockey League. So that's another one. And that's about it for the forwards. Defensemen, there's only a couple of guys I want to mention. And we're talking rookies here because obviously Konsta Elenius was also very good with Rochester. But I think he was there last. Was he? I think he was there last year.
He was.
He was because they have a tendency to bring these 18-year-old guys. They did it with Isaac Rosen. They did it with Yuri Kulik. So it seems like a habit for Buffalo to bring these younger players to the American Hockey League. A couple of defensemen I want to mention. Dmitry Simashev. 23 points in 23 games, but in the National Hockey League, I mean, he was a number 6 defenseman, basically doing nothing offensively. Is he a great offensive defenseman? I don't think that much. I think he was drafted a little bit high at number 6, my opinion, but should be a good NHLer. And a guy that sends fans probably follow in Belleville, Carter Yakemchuk. 24 points in 36 games. Yeah. I know that some analysts have already given up on him, that he was drafted too high and blah, blah, blah. And I know my colleague Mathias Brunet on our French podcast, he's really not a fan of Yakemchuk. I do like him. He's playing PK. He's playing power play this year. He's a 20-year-old defenseman. I think they're just letting him marinate in the American Hockey League. Eventually, he'll join the Senators' blue line. So, was he drafted too high at number 6? Time will tell. But I'm not too concerned. I like him. And finally, before we talk about a couple of goalies, Trevor Conley, 10 points in 17 games. He was injured. I think he's doing fine. He can make plays at high speed. He's 19 years old. Will Vegas call him up before the end of the year? It's not impossible because Vegas has had a lot of injuries. But I think he's too frail right now for the NHL. So they should leave him in the American Hockey League, bulk up a little bit. That's my concern about him. He's very easy to
knock off.
To knock off the puck.
Yeah.
He's often injured. The talent is there. You can see that he belongs. But I'm a little bit concerned about his durability. So, but this is a guy we'll talk about a lot because I I really hammered it home to my listeners a couple of years ago before the draft. A couple of goalies I want to mention. They're both 21-year-old goalies. Of course, Jacob Fowler in Laval.
That's a given.
He's been lights out. He came to Montreal
as advertised.
As advertised. I mean, he had a few good games in Montreal, and I think I don't know when he's going to be regular in Montreal, but it shouldn't take long. The other one is Sergei Murashov. And the reason why I wouldn't talk to him is because I want to draw a parallel with a guy that the Habs drafted from Russia a couple of years ago. And here's the parallel I want to make. Murashov played 16 games last year, still rookie eligible. Mm-hmm. He's 21 now. He was a 4th-round pick of Pittsburgh in 2022. And he had a stint in the NHL this year, 5 games, save percentage of .897. So kind of so-so. But 2.11 in the goals against average in the American Hockey League, 924 save percentage. He is probably, with Fowler, they're both the top rookie goalies in the league. Now, the Habs drafted a guy named Yevgeny Volokhin, 5th round 2023. So 1 year after Murashov. Mm-hmm. And Volokhin had played a few years in the NHL, which is the junior Russian league. And he was drafted out of that league, same as Murashov. But Murashov, at age 20, when he decided to move to North America. Mm-hmm. So last year he played in the East Coast League. You know, a lot of fans don't follow the East Coast League, you know, because not many players come out of that league. Obviously, you're not going to get a Demidov out of the ECHL. No. But it's a very good league to develop goalies because you're better off sending a 20-year-old goalie that you're only going to play 10 or 15 games in the American Hockey League. You send him to the ACHL, and, you know, it's still pro hockey. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not high caliber pro hockey, but it's like AA in baseball, let's say. Although I wouldn't go with that comparison because AA baseball sometimes has stars that go through. But what I mean is that if you consider Laval AAA, well, Trois-Rivières is AA. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very good for goalies. And Volokhin, that's where the comparison stops. He decided to stay at age 20 in Russia, and he's playing in the VHL. Mm-hmm. VHL is the equivalent of the American Hockey League for Russia, behind the KHL. He has a 1.56 goals against average in 31 games, a 945 save percentage. He played 4 games in the KHL. And last year, at age 19, his save percentage in the KHL was 901. So it was okay. So he's a little bit behind Murashov, I would say, in the sense that Murashov came to America last year. Yeah. But they have very, very similar paths. And I wonder when he wants to come, when the Habs want him to come, because now is the time. They could bring him to Trois-Rivières. Mm. So goalies, hard to predict, but he's part of the pipeline, just as Quentin Miller. Yeah. Just like Alexis Cournoyer.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So, you know, Radkov was not as good this year. So it's kind of up and down. But I really like the goalies pipeline. And you're always hoping that 1 or 2 will emerge. So that's the parallel I want to make between Murashov and Volokhin. Volokhin, we're going to follow. We're going to follow in the next couple of seasons.
And Snake, I mean, the Laval Rocket, they have a new goaltending coach. And he's a Russian. Mm-hmm. Just saying. But
well, it wouldn't hurt because they have Radkov in the pipeline. They have Volokhin.
That's it.
So I think Volokhin, bring him here next year. Trois-Rivières, maybe. I don't know his contract status. Maybe they want him to play in the KHL. But look, there's no rush with goalies. They have Fowler ahead of him. But I wouldn't be surprised at some point to see Fowler and Volikin as the 1-2 punch in net for the Habs.
Be something.
Yeah,
be something.
But that's
down the line. Yeah,
that's really down the line when it comes to goalies. So that pretty much wraps up my little AHL update. We hadn't done anything since the beginning of the year, and I thought during the All-Star break it was a good time to see what's happening out there. You always want good players in the NHL, so it's fun to follow these rookies because I always like seeing good players and good young players. You need the pipeline to get going.
Exactly. No, and it's clearly it's one hell of a rookie class in the AHL, and there are second and even third year players who are putting on quite a show. Think about Adam Engstrom is one of them. Mm-hmm. He's been incredible this season, just lighting it up for Laval. But Snake, I mean, I think it's a good time to remind everyone about your philosophy for the trajectory of AHL players going into the NHL position-wise. Because you mentioned the goalies, right? And the goalies, I think, is a great point that you're better off leaving them overripe. Take Sebastian Cossa of the Grand Rapid Griffins, for example, okay? Yeah. He is dominant is not even enough to describe his season so far. But that's because it's like his fourth year in the AHL, right? He's overripe. That's why Detroit got John Gibson and Cam Talbot to fill in this year, so that, when Sebastian Cossa comes in, he's ready, right? And then defensemen, okay, we know that takes a little longer. And then forwards, it doesn't take that long usually to know if you have an NHL player or not. So can you kind of remind the folks how your philosophy works?
Well, that's what I was saying at the beginning of the segment. Basically, for forwards, the 20-year-old season is very important because that's what you see. You start seeing pretty much what you have. Yes, there are exceptions. You're always going to find a Morgan Geekie, will pan out later, would spend a few years in the AHL. But I'm just going with, the general rule. I could pull out, the top players in the NHL who have gone through the AHL and how long they've been in the AHL. Most of them, the forwards, none.
Yeah.
And some of them, 10 games, 24 games, 48 games. Look, we'll do the exercise one day. So forwards, you pretty much see. I can't remember how many Habs player didn't have a good season in the American Hockey League at age 20 as forwards and became very good. I think the only one I can think of is perhaps Max Pacioretty. I remember in Hamilton, he wasn't that great in his first season, but then he really took off. You know what? That's almost 20 years ago. So when you see Philip Michard struggling, and you see that Owen Beck is a fine player, but he's not like tearing it up, well, you pretty much know what you have in the future. Defenseman, that's another story. Defenseman, I think you have to see progress, but you cannot expect a 20-year-old defenseman to be dominant. A 21-year-old, when he turns 21, you're hoping for progress. And by the end of his entry-level contract at 22, you want him in the league at least as a third-pairing guy or a seventh defenseman. That's on average. Of course, there are guys like Hudson who just jumped to the NHL at age 20, but they're exceptions. Look at Yakimchuk. Yakimchuk, will he play for Ottawa next year? I don't know. They might send him back, but that's okay. He needs to learn the job. Goalies, they need to be self-confident, and that's why you let them override, because they have to know that they can stop the puck. And when they reach the NHL, it's like, okay, guys, shoot.
That's it.
American Hockey League defensemen, they need to learn the ropes. And, a guy like Bryce Pickford, for instance, he's going to be there next year. Bryce Pickford is a very good offensive defenseman, no denying. But his positioning in the defensive zone is kind of so-so right now. That's where Laval and Pascal Vincent and all these guys are going to teach him what to do. So he'll need time in the American Hockey League. And even if he gets some great stats offensively, well, they don't need him right away. Let him become a well-rounded defenseman. As for goalies, I don't mind if the guy stays there 4 or 5 years. Although at some point he has to go through waivers. We saw it with Caden Primo. You have to go through waivers, but I don't care if the guy stays 4 years in the AHL, and then he becomes a backup and everything. It's really a long-term investment. It's like drafting a baseball player out of high school. You know he's 5 years away from MLB. So, and sometimes the chief scout or general manager that picks the goalies, they're not there to see them. Look at Dobesh. Dobesh was picked by the Bergevin-Timmins regime. And now that he's an NHL goalie, they're gone. But you have to do this. You always have to keep the goalie pipeline going because you never know what can happen. Even if you have, remember Jose Theodore, they drafted Carey Price.
Yeah.
Back in 2005. And so you never know. And at some point, if they're very good, they can become trade bait. Look at Halak. Halak gave the Habs a fine third-line player who's still in the NHL, Lars Eller.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that's pretty much the way I see it. I know I've said it before, but it's good for new listeners to see how I see it. So sometimes I'm going to be a little bit harsh with forwards. I'm going to be way more lenient with defensemen and goalies when I analyze American Hockey League players, Rocket players. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, what's happening with Bechar now? It's like, be patient. Well, most guys don't end up like Morgan Geekie.
That's it. Well, it's a fun discussion, and we want to hear again from our listeners who has been your standout AHL rookie this season. I think it's hard not to pick Ilya Protas. What a story that is, eh? His brother in the same organization, sort of like a Jack Guy-ish, but however, more talent.
Yeah,
I think we could say. But great pick there by the Washington Capitals. I think in the second round too, just unreal value. But he's having quite the year. So let us know in the chat who your standout AHL rookie has been so far. Snake. I'll take a few minutes here before we move along to give a big thank you to our partners at the Sick Podcast who make this show possible. And I want to start off with our friends at Cheapest T-Shirts. Okay, it's very simple. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They're proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every day. You'll always get the cheapest prices plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. Plus, you can enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And if you want to get in on the action for the Olympics, you know where to do it. Go over to Betway, don't select the bust. You can get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. Well, we're going to circle back to the Olympics briefly now, and let's go over to Snake's hot take. I am looking forward to this one, Snake. You got cooking for us.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if listeners agree or disagree with me. I think it's going to be a very fun discussion in our comment section. And I was inspired by hearing the other day that Canada was playing the U.S. in the women's tournament.
Yep.
And I was thinking, why? Maybe I was not up to date, with the news, but I was thinking, why? Are they in the same pool? And they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that they were doing this to basically have better matchups more interesting matchups in the first round, in the preliminary round, and that basically so Canada could face the US now and in the medal round. So that's good. It's 2 games instead of 1 of the top 2 teams. And I was looking at the brackets, the pools in the men's section, and you have Finland playing with Sweden in the same bracket, which is good. Slovakia, Italy, that's fine. But then you have the US against Germany, Latvia, Denmark. I mean, no disrespect, but these countries are no powerhouse.
No.
Canada's playing against France, Switzerland, Czechia. It's okay, but you saw today they beat them 5-0. And I was wondering, is there a way where they could put approximately the top 4 teams in a bracket, and then another one? I know there are surprises. Slovakia beat Finland. I do know these things happen. But I assume, let's say you put Canada, Sweden, the States, and Finland in the same bracket. Imagine there would be 6 great matchups in the preliminary round. Now you might say, yeah, but Denmark is going to play Latvia. You know what? Denmark's playing Latvia anyway. So I think it would increase the number of interesting matchups, less blowouts in the first round. And then come the middle round, then, of course, it would be interesting for Canada, US, Sweden, and Finland to try and avoid playing in an extra game.
Yeah.
So the competition would be fierce to avoid playing the extra game. Of course, would you have mismatches in the quarterfinals? Yes. But you know what? You will have mismatches in the quarterfinals anyway with the brackets we have right now.
That's it.
And in the end, it might end up being Canada-US or Canada-Sweden or Sweden-US. I do know, but I think the preliminary matchups would be better, and it wouldn't hurt anybody's chances of a medal. Now, the counter arguments would be the games are going to be tougher, and maybe these teams will be a little bit more tired at the end than playing against all these potsies, during the preliminary round. But it's also a show. And when you think about it, there are scenarios right now where Canada might not play the US at all. I think it's unlikely, but it could happen. It could happen depending on how the standings are. So at least with that thing, you would be guaranteed a Canada-US matchup, a US-Sweden, a Canada-Sweden, and the preliminary round would be more interesting. So I'd like to hear what the listeners have to say. There might be counter arguments to this. You might have counter arguments, Shayne. I'm not saying that it's the ideal thing to do, but I would like to see what they did on the women's side to make the first round more interesting. We all know with 12 teams, there will be boring matchups. There will be, but probably less blowouts if you do it this way. So, because Canada, if they play Sweden, Finland, and the US, there won't be any blowouts.
That's it. They're going to be.
Whereas now, I'm curious to see, Canada, France. I mean, let's face it. There's one NHL player on the France team. I mean, poor guys. I mean, it's too bad. Look. At least they're in the Olympics. It's an experience. They're having fun. It's memories forever for the players. It's just that for the audience, I think it would be more interesting because the top game of the preliminary round for Canada was played today, and even then, they won 5-0.
Yeah. It's delicate because the tournament is very short. Right. So obviously you want the best teams to play against each other, and you're hoping that happens in the medal round. But the fact that each team only plays 3 preliminary games kind of shortens the pool a little bit. And I kind of understand how they're doing it right now. But I also see the merit in what you say, Snake, because everybody wants to see Canada, US. Everybody wants to see, the big teams playing against each other, Sweden, Finland, Czechia, Slovakia. You want to see those big teams. But then again, you know what? There are some very great storylines with the underdog nations.
Yes.
Okay? Look at Italy yesterday. It's the great example. They kept Sweden to 2-2. Should they have been in the game? Not at all. They were being outshot 3 times, right? But again, it's these special stories that kind of come out of these underdog matchups that are pretty exciting to see. Sometimes, of course, you're going to get the 10-0 blowouts. That's going to happen. But I don't know that if it really needs a change. I wouldn't be against it, however. More big nation matchups is always a good thing, but I think we're all hoping just to see those big nation matchups in the medal round when it matters most. It's do or die elimination time, and that's when players just step it up another level.
Yeah, no, I get it because because one might say, well, what if they lose all 3 games, whether it be the States or well, they're still going to be in. They're all playing in the medal round.
Exactly, everyone is.
It's just
some teams get a bye,
and the nice stories that you were talking about, Sweden against Italy, they can happen in the medal round too, because that's what would happen. So, but look, I do understand. It's just that I was inspired by what they did with the women tournament, and I know it's a little bit different because there are better. The countries are better on the men's side than the women's side. I mean, Canada and US has been so dominant ever since women's hockey. It's part of, So I understand that, Sweden, the men's team is better than the women's team, and Finland. So I do understand it's more competitive on the men's side, but it's just something that I thought could be fun and just better matchups. That's all in the end. And I think the gold medal would still be. Everybody would have a chance at the gold medal.
Yeah.
It's not like, because if you told me, let's do this, but only the top 2 teams in the division are part of the medal round. Well, you know what? That would suck.
Yeah.
Because then if you have Canada, US, Sweden, and Finland, you take out 2 of them. That's not good, because then in another division, you could have Denmark and Germany 1 and 2. Okay, not ideal. But since they all go through the medal round.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The seeding doesn't really matter whether you face a team early or late in the medal round. You have to beat them anyway. You have to beat the best anyway to win the gold medal. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not sure. But since they did something on the women's side, they might tweak the men's tournament eventually. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm open to any updates, any changes. One thing I do very much like, Snake, and this is just a sidebar, personal opinion here, but I love the fact that goal differential matters in this tournament because it encourages goal scoring. That's what we want to see, right? The team that scores the most ends up winning the tournament. So again, this is just, I think, a phenomenal way to go about it. So far, these Olympics have been incredible. The pace of play is outstanding. Like, these players want it, and they want it bad. I can't wait to see what the rest of the tournament looks like, especially the medal rounds. And by the way, Tony, for those who don't know, Tony is going to Milan. Okay, he is flying out this weekend. And so is Matt O'Hagan, by the way. So we're going to have 2 representatives of the Sick Podcast in Milan to talk about what they're seeing in front of their eyes. They're going to be watching the games. So tune in to the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. I'm going to be filling in for Tony quite often, but Tony's going to pop in. Matt's going to pop in. We're going to have some great discussions about what we're seeing. So do go check it out next week. Now, Snake, we're not done our show quite yet. There is still one very important thing to do. Let's go digging in the mailbag. All right. Our question today comes from Glenn Campbell, saying, how about trading Jake Evans, Jaden Struble, and Philip Meshar, Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets? How could Winnipeg say no to this? Montreal could use his size, physicality, and a third-line left-handed center. It's an interesting trade proposal. Sneak, what do you think?
I'm curious to see what you think of this, because it's kind of tricky. Well, first of all, Adam Lowry signed an extension until 2031, $5 million a year, and he's already 32 years old, and he has a no-trade clause for a couple of seasons, which means that technically he cannot be traded before 2028. And even then, he has a 5-team trade list. Then it moves up to the 10-team trade list. So I doubt this is possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to answer the question, because regardless of what, you can replace Lowry's name with other guys like him and see the kind of trade proposal, if it makes sense or not, or if a team would be willing to do this. I think there are two sides to this story. On paper, when you look at it, regardless of contracts, if you're just looking for the now, I don't see why Winnipeg would do this.
No.
Because let's face it, Struble is at best a 6th or 7th defenseman. I mean, these guys are a dime a dozen. And Michar, I think, and Michar is the guy mentioned by the listener, correct? Yeah. Michar has no trade value. I mean, why would a team want Michar? I mean, he's really a throw-in, so you can't really consider him. Jake Evans, I think Lowry is superior to Jake Evans, but Jake Evans has a more palatable contract. So if Winnipeg wanted to, let's say, dump Lowry's contract to get someone who earns almost like half the price, who's a little bit younger, it could be an interesting proposition for them. But they just signed Lowry to an extension.
Yeah.
So and the downside of Lowry is that I think at his age, the type of hockey, the style that he plays, will he be as good when his contract expires? And it's $5 million a year. I know the salary cap's going up, but you don't want to have too many of these $5 million contracts for guys who are like 35, 36, when you're going to have to pay Demidov, and you're going to have to pay, the Michael Hage and the Fowlers and all these guys that are coming. At some point, there's a limit to, that's why they call it salary cap. There's a cap.
Yeah.
So I think that if the Habs were going to make a move like this, I don't have a name right off the top of my head, but it would have to be a guy who has less term. But again, if Lowry had less term, I don't think the Jets would do something like that, because I prefer Lowry to Jake Evans. And again, whenever we come up with trade proposals, and we all do it around a beer or a coffee, I don't think other teams are really interested in the Habs players that are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Struble is one of
bad players. Give me your good ones.
Yeah, I can understand the value of a Jake Evans.
Yeah,
but Struble, every team has a Struble. Every team has a bunch of Michars on their American Hockey League team or East Coast League team. So look, but it's something to explore for the Habs. If there's a guy like this, like like Lowry or someone else, becomes available, it's obviously someone that you have to keep in mind, because yes, he is tough. And I think the Habs at some point are going to they're going to have to trade away some players that fans love in order to become tougher to play against. I'm not saying they're easy to play against, but I'm just saying that if they want to win, they're going to have to rise that level, because the talent they do have.
Oh, no doubt about that.
No doubt about that. And there's a lot of talent coming up. Hage and Zarovsky. I mean, but they're going to have to find maybe they're going to have to come up with a bottom six that is, and we've discussed this, in previous episodes. They're going to have to come up with a bottom six that is. What I mean by tougher is, I don't mean fighting. I don't mean, big body checks, but I mean the kind of bottom six that will wear out the other team in the playoffs. Just like
hard on the forecheck, hard to knock off.
Yeah, just like Florida did. It's getting there, because these players, I'm not saying they're easy to find, but they're easier to find than a Zarovsky, let's say.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Or a Hudson, or a Demidov, or a Slavkovsky. So it's getting there. It's getting there. Habs fans just have to be patient. I think Kent Hughes has proven so far, that he's done a good job. And I trust that he can fill out that need. The only thing is, these players, teams like to keep them.
That's it. Yeah.
Unless they get a talented player in return.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say that if they're going to get a guy like this, there's going to have to be a trade at some point where the Habs give up talent for a little bit more grit. And at first, that might be disappointing to fans because, oh, darn, we're losing this player or that player. But then they'll see that you need a balance on a roster. Exactly. So we'll see what happens. Some teams have done this. Look at Buffalo. They traded Savoie for McLeod.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think they made another trade like this. Who else did they get recently?
Well, they traded Peterka for Josh Doan and
Peterka for Josh Doan and Kisserling. Yeah.
That was a good trade.
At first, Buffalo fans were like, hey, Peterka is a great player. And I think he is. He's a very good player. But they needed to balance the roster because they had too many players like Peterka.
Bingo.
So that's what I think will happen with the Habs one day. I've been saying it for a couple of years. But I think Ken Hughes will strike when the timing is right. And we know that he hasn't given up a lot in his trades, Ken Hughes.
No, that's it. He's stingy.
And he doesn't want to give up a lot. He's not going to give away a Cole Caulfield for nothing, if you see my point.
No, exactly.
It's just one example out of my head. It could be a Hage or a Zorowski. It's not going to just hand it into another team.
No, and look, to Glenn's question, I genuinely don't see Adam Lowry being traded. He's the captain of the Jets, too. That's a factor that, I don't think they're going to want to move him, but that contract, the age, none of it kind of jives.
But I thought it was a good topic of discussion.
Yes, because
you can
like Lowry.
Yeah, you can fill in the blank, someone like Lowry, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Because then again, I do like the player. I understand that the listener likes Lowry, so that's why you mentioned him.
The Habs do have a player in their pipeline that has been compared to an Adam Lowry light, Florian Jacki.
Yeah.
Right? So they kind of have that coming up, but again, how much do they believe in him?
I don't know if Florian has the same offensive potential, but we'll see.
That's why I say Adam Lowry light. Yeah. Like he's maybe a bit of a lesser version, but still in the same type of mold. But no, it's an interesting, topic, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it some more, especially when the Olympics are over. There's about a week or so before the trade deadline once we come back. So that's going to get rolling very fast. We're going to see trades, and we're going to break them down here like we did with the Artemi Panarin trade and what the Rangers got in return, that being Liam Greentree. We're going to kind of take that approach to those trades, right? Okay, oh, wow, this big player moved. What did the other team get in return, right? Is it good value, the prospects, the picks, all that? Stay tuned for that. But however, we're still in the Olympic jive here, so we're going to talk about that, the Habs, all of the above on Monday, and again on Thursday. We're not taking any breaks, okay? There is no Olympic break for us. We work hard, okay? At the Sick Podcast, we're not cutting corners. We're not cheating, okay? We care about the content. We care about you, the listener. And I mean, we enjoy doing this. Like, this is fun for us. So we're going to be here again on Monday. Snake, anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, have a nice weekend, everybody, and have fun watching the hockey tournament.
Yes. Well, for Simon the Snake Boisvert, thank you to Sammy and Daniello back at Master Control. I'm producer Shayne. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.